Hello everyone and welcome back to Satisfactory. Today, it's time for some radio control units. Welcome back. Last episode, we got the fused modular frames in. Finally, we have been needing those for a very long time. And that also required us to get our excessive quantities of aluminum ingots in, which as you can see, that doesn't look like 1,000 a minute. And I don't know if it is either, because half of these things are like turned off half the time, and I'm not sure why. No, these guys look like they're running out of alumina. These guys look like they're running out of water half the time, and I'm not sure why that is. I've tried adding extra buffers in, but that doesn't seem to be working either, and I've tried... Wait, what? This is also out of alumina? What? Ah, you know what? That might be why. Yeah, maybe it's not connected. Oh my god. Okay, you know, that would explain a lot. Anyways, okay, so ignore everything that I just said. I forgot to plug that in. Yeah, that's my bad. Also, last episode... I remember in the episode that I pointed out that I had to fix the line over here because there was a single Mark V conveyor belt instead of a Mark VI. Yeah, I thought that was the problem. It wasn't. It was not the problem. That was the problem. Half the things weren't even plugged in. I'm gonna go check now to make sure that everything is plugged in. I think we're good. Okay, but also, yes, this can be a Mark V because the Mark VI speeds only start picking up at that point over there. So, we should be good on aluminum right now. Anyways, so what are we doing this episode? We're going to be doing radio control units. And that's more than likely going to be the only thing happening this episode because this is going to be the most involved process I've ever had to do. Well, maybe. Let's grab a MAM real quick. We've got 3 recipes for radio control units, and I'm going to go ahead and just take this last one because I need to get into the habit of doing that anyways. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. Radio control units, there's 3 ways to do this. We can either go the computer route with crystal oscillators, we can go the non-computer route with crystal oscillators, or we can do the non-crystal oscillators route. Which one do we do? I have no idea. I think the real thing that we need to ask ourselves is, what parts do I want to make, and how many computers do I have available to me? Because the initial thoughts are going to be, let's just do this recipe here because we can do the silicon high-speed connector recipe. We have a whole bunch of Caterium and a whole bunch of quartz over this way. This is probably where I'm going to be setting everything up anyway. Also, because there is a nice little patch of bauxite down here. We've got a pure node, so we can get 1,000 ingots out of that. We've got a copper node right here, which is also pure, so we can get an excessive amount of copper out of that. And then we can probably just build a thing over the edge of the swamp biome over here, and then we'll call it a day from there. But maybe we can save a lot of time by doing a different recipe. I'm not really sure. So, we need to figure out how many of these we're going to need. That is part of the problem. Now, I know that they are used in turbo motors, and I wonder if they're also used in the third alternate for turbo motors. Why don't we go ahead and find out? Yep, the last one's right here, and this, it appears like it doesn't, but there's only one way to make pressure conversion cubes, and that's with radio control units. So I think that one's actually the cheapest on radio control units, if I'm not mistaken. Because let's see here, this one is 2-to-1, this is 9-to-3, so that is 3-to-1, and the one over there was 1 pressure conversion cube to 1. I need to stop tearing down the MAM. This one is also 1-to-1. Interesting. So I guess that depends on what our turbo motor needs are going to be, and I'm honestly just thinking about this one. Although, oh god, guess what I did? I tore down the MAM again. Guess what? I just took it. Wait a minute, so this recipe down here is just actually better, right? I didn't even think of that, because like, on the radio control units, 2-to-1, this is 3-to-1, and this is 2-to-2, or 1-to-1. So this is the best on radio control units. We're going to need aluminum for all of these, except for this one, but this is 3-to-1 radio control units. Stators you can just make out of basically nothing, and motors you can also make out of basically nothing, which I've already done before. So, this one seems to be the cheapest recipe, but will require fused modular frames. Luckily, we have 40 of them. I think we can afford to use some for turbo motors, you know? Plus, it is only 1-to-2, so we could get away with maybe just like 5 and we just make 10 of these. Now, we would probably want to do 10 per minute of these. I don't know if this is going to be useful for literally anything else. I mean, thermal propulsion rockets, if I had to guess, they go into ballistic warp drives, so I'm going to assume we're going to be wanting to make a lot of those, but I don't have proof on that. But that looks like it's the only thing it's actually used in, so we can probably get away with 10 of these per minute, or maybe even like 12 or something. I don't know, we'll figure that out later. But radio control units, we need to figure out how many of those we need to make. My brain instantly goes to 50 per minute, but I don't know if that's like overkill. I feel like it might be, and I don't know if we're going to have enough aluminum for that anyways. We're going to have to do some like serious calculations on all of this to be sure what we can do. So why don't we go ahead and head over to computer land and figure out how many computers we're making, and have left over for use. Yeah, I'm getting a little worried that we don't have enough computers to do that recipe, and I really don't want to do the other one either because that involves crystal oscillators, which is going to make things even more complicated because guess what? Crystal oscillators also have their own recipes. To choose from, right? Because, like, just look at this, crystal oscillators. Yeah, there's two ways to get this, too. And I don't want to use the AI limiters because I think I'm using them for something else. Although, maybe I'm even not. I don't know. But also, this is going to be pretty expensive. So it's like, oh my god, there's just so much logistics required to build everything. I feel like that's kind of how this game's been going. But still, I would rather avoid crystal oscillators if possible because they just seem to be extremely expensive on quartz, mostly. And quartz is the thing that I have always seemed to run out of. Okay, how many computers are we making per minute? Right, I remember how many computers it was per minute. 75. Now, how many are we using in the supercomputer factory? I don't think it's that much. I think it's like 15 or so, maybe? 7.5, 15, 22.5, 30. So we have 45 computers left over to work with. We might just use them, right? You know what? Let's just see. How much can we get away with this? Now, we will have to build oscillators, which I was trying to avoid doing anyways, but it is 1-to-1 on these. 45 radio control units per minute. That's got to be enough, right? And there's no way I'm going to be using the computers for anything else. Plus, I've already got a dimensional depot. Plus, the supercomputers are already backfilled anyway. So even if it is a perfect ratio, I will still have extras left over because I have a giant buffer over there. And if we lose a little bit of production because I had to build some buildings, so be it. Whatever. Okay, you know what? I was really thinking about going down this route here because we had circuit boards. We have plenty of aluminum to go around. It would feel like it's easier, but to be fair, this is a pretty nasty recipe on the resource cost, so I am more than happy to just go ahead with this recipe. So, now we're going to need to figure out how many crystal oscillators we need, which is exactly half of the 45. So we need 22.5 oscillators per minute, plus we're going to need a lot of aluminum. Whatever. Okay, well, aluminum's going to be easy. Who cares? The hard part is going to be the oscillators. We need 22.5 of those. And we have two ways to get it. The normal way, which takes an extreme amount of quartz, but we know exactly how many we would need. So I think we need about 520-ish quartz to get all of that. That's not too bad. These cables, how are we going to make the cables? That is a question I don't know. Because I'm just thinking, if we take a look at the map here, so we obviously have this large patch of deuterium over here that we totally could make into cables because we do have this recipe right here. Now, it takes rubber, but it takes a very, very small amount of quick wire. So that might be an option. We might also want to go with quartz. I honestly don't know, but how much cables do we actually need here? 315 a minute. So if we just went with pure copper, that would be 630 per minute, which is a little unfortunate because that is over the amount that I would like to spend because it is more than a full overclocked normal vein. So that's not super great. And reinforced iron plates is a write-off because there's more than enough iron and whatever over here to build that. Yeah, we've got plenty. So, honestly, I think that's what we're going to do. Maybe we can do the math later, or maybe I will just go onto Satisfactory Tools and let that do all the math for me, which may seem like a better idea anyways. Huh, you know what? Let's do that real quick. Alright, well, here is the kinda janky calculation for making the 45 radio control units on this absolute glorious website that I cannot stop using. Basically, the inputs are a decent amount of iron, a lot more quartz than I would have hoped, but that's actually not horrible. A little bit of water, that's easy. A little bit of copper, a little bit of coal. That's not so bad. Now, you'll also see down here that the aluminum ingot I've just set as a... We already have this. That's because there's a pure aluminum node down there, and I'm just going to make the standard aluminum setup that we've already built twice last episode, because it seems to be working most of the time, assuming I build it right, and that makes 1,000 ingots a minute. Now, even if we don't use all 1,000, we can ship off the remainder to the rocket fuel drone setup for making the pressure containers so we can actually store the rocket fuel, because we're going to need to do that. I'm also going to probably overflow the aluminum from heat sinks to do that, but I don't know if we'll get to that this episode. That may be a next episode kind of thing. I know there's a few things I need to just clean up, so we may just spend the next episode kind of just cleaning everything up. It's not too bad. There's a decent amount of machines, and it's actually not as many as I thought. The only annoying part here is it really likes to use iron wire, but considering it only uses like 356 iron, that's not terrible. But since we're already making crystal oscillators, let's just do some more calculations real quick. Yeah, that's better. So let's go ahead and take a look at this instead, because this is more likely what I'm going to be doing. 30 crystal oscillators per minute, because I think they're used to build some things. Do not quote me on that. I am not sure. but it may be nice to have a little bit of overflow just so we can store it in a box and call it a day. The cost for this, a little bit of coal because it wants to use solid steel, but, oh, actually, maybe, is there any coal over there? I don't think there is. Let me just take that out. Hold on. Okay, so that increases the iron cost, but actually removes like half the other things, so I am more than happy to do that. Oh, that's unfortunate. 602.778? Are you kidding me, dude? You can't make this up, man. That is like 2.7 over the pure node. Bro, okay, now hang on a minute. If we take iron wire out, good grief, you know, sometimes this website really likes to use the weirdest things. I'm not putting 18 aluminum ingots in just to make screws, bro. I'm not doing that. This is better. Okay, so the cost here is now 200 iron, a whole bunch of water, 260 copper, and 694 quartz. That's fine. I'm perfectly okay with that. This is probably what we're going to be doing for crystal oscillators, so now we can head back over to the other tab. And now, as you can see, the only other input we're going to be needing for this is the additional copper, so we need 200 copper plus 268, so that is less than a normal overclocked node, whole bunch of water, 200 iron, 694 quartz. That is not too bad, and that is not even as much as I thought we would be needing to use. Okay, honestly, we might even want to make more crystal oscillators, but I don't know if they're used for anything else. I guess we could go check. Oh, that has got me a little worried. There is 4 things down here that I don't have the recipes for. I don't know if they're alternates or if they're not alternates, but that's 4 things that they could be used in, and hold on a minute. Wait, I just had a brainwave. Hold on. So since it was on the mind, I was thinking to myself, you know, we're probably going to be building this new factory kind of over the lake over here, like the swampy biome. And then we had this little hard drive down here, and that thing took like, I think it was a superposition oscillator. Instant brainwave. I wonder how you make those. What are the odds that a superposition oscillator takes a crystal oscillator? Because they're both oscillators. I think the chances are pretty high. And if we go ahead and take a look back at the crafting cost for the crystal oscillators, you can see that this isn't that bad. I really thought this would be worse, but it really isn't. So how much could we get away with 1200 quartz? Ha, perfect. 51.852. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like 50 crystal oscillators per minute, which would be much better. So let's do that. And then, barring any, like, unfortunate things, this, in theory, should be enough to last us for maybe making the other oscillators, assuming it's not, like, 10 a minute or something crazy like that. Of course, I don't have them unlocked yet, so I don't have any way to prove this. But having that extra 27.5 oscillators per minute may prove to be useful in the future. So let's do this. Okay. This is the recipe we need. We need 446 plus 192. So that is a little bit over. So unfortunately, we're going to have to... No, wait, no, we're not. I'm going to do some weird combination of iron wire and copper wire because we're only using 336 iron. I guarantee you there's a normal node over there. So we'll use a single normal copper node, which I think is actually what we have over there. All right, well, joke's on me, I guess. There's a pure node there. Okay, here it is. This is the normal node. I'm going to use this normal node. I'm going to use the pure bauxite node over here to make all the aluminum and, of course, ship off the rest. And then we'll come up here. We've got a pure quartz node right there, and we no longer need any of the caterium, and we can just grab one of these normal iron nodes right here, merge everything over on this area. Life is good. We have a whole bunch of stuff. That's the plan. All right, well, first things first, I think it's about time I clean out my inventory because it is absolutely full of biomatter. I actually know exactly how that got in there. Put all the alien parts in the alien parts super duper. Speaking of which, I haven't really checked how many tickets I have. I probably have a bunch by now, right? I'm thinking 250, that's my guess. 261, okay, you know what? Good guess. That's not too bad, and we're getting a whole bunch of points from a bunch of, like, random garbage, so we're not even really trying, but we're still building them up, which is kind of nice. I'd like to keep these diamonds in my inventory, because we're going to need them for some item transport. The rest of the stuff I really don't need to have in here, but I'm just going to keep it anyway. And you know what? Let me go turn some of these smokeless powder stacks into some actual ammo, because I don't know if you noticed, but I'm fresh out of bullets, and that makes it kind of hard to defend myself, especially considering I'm going to be going to the swamp, which is home to a lot of nasties. Okay, and probably the first thing that I'll want to do is do bauxite, because I know that can be kind of annoying and a little bit finicky if you're not careful with it. I should also probably go check on the other bauxite setups and the turbo frame, or what? Fused frames? Oh, yeah. I should go check on the fused frame setup. Well, everything appears to be on, so I think we're probably fine. No, we're not. Okay, what's going on? Nope, no, I'm just tripping. We're good. Although I guess while we're over here, I can go show you all how many I actually have by now, and that is, yeah, this much. We got a full box here. We've started filling up the second one. More than enough to go around. Okay, enough yapping. Let's actually go build something. And I'm totally not stalling to get a bunch of rifle rounds, because I know I'm going to need them. And you know, honestly, the first thing that I want to do is not go down there, because I'm going to be spending the rest of the episode down there most likely, so let's spend at least a little bit of time up here, get the last breath of fresh air, and mine the quartz up first, yeah. 3? How many of these things are there? Oh! I totally oh no, I probably should go check on them. There's 4 of them! 5? Do they roam in herds? 7? 8? There's like a conspiracy going on, I think. I should probably be careful. Hello, Loggy, where did you get these? Yeah, I had to come back and check on him. Bro seems perfectly fine, but where on earth did you find 12 fused modular frames from? You're in a box of water. Okay, you know what? I'm kind of impressed, so you know what? You know what? I think you've earned yourself an upgrade, my friend. Why are there 4 of these guys here? I think everything's starting to roam in herds, and it's starting to concern me. Congratulations, Loggy, you've earned yourself a nice beachfront and beach. You're welcome. Maybe someday I'll tame up the armada of them over there and you guys can be friends. Wow, I might actually be blind, you know. There's a Mercer sphere right there. I was standing right there getting the power pole ready for this thing. Jeez. Alright, well anyways, we're also going to have to run a power tower up here, so we may as well get that in now. And off we go into this swamp. Oh, great. Okay, there we go. That should be power to the drill, and I'm landing in a very, very unpleasant place, which appears to be next to a log. I thought that was going to be some quartz powder, but I don't think that's the case. Okay, anyways, here we are. This is our location, and it's probably going to be going right around here because it's a decently flat area that I can just pave over and not have to worry about any of the foliage or evildoers that are down there. Which, by the way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can already see 9 enemies, and I haven't really looked at that closely. So, yeah, this place is not hospitable. Yeah, I don't like it here. Okay, let's pave it over, like a sensible person. Alright, much better. So I guess the first thing we're probably going to want to do is, as I've already said, do the aluminum setup. Again, one aluminum setup in completely pitch darkness. Let's do it. well, well, would you look at that? The third pretty, probably, hopefully, optimal efficiency aluminum factory has hit the Satisfactory world. I'm getting kind of sick of building these, I'm not gonna lie. If there was a way to just, like, oh, I don't know, copy an area and just place it down again, that would be the most fantastic thing ever. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We only have 6x6x6 foundation areas worth of building space to work with in blueprints. This is 13x16, so unfortunately, that's not gonna fit. Okay, well, anyways, this is the first part done, and it was kind of the quote-unquote easy part, because I already knew how to do it. Next thing to do is to get the crystal oscillators going, which is going to be very, very fun, mostly because I hate this biome. I realize now why everyone hates it. There's 100 million critters everywhere, and they always want to kill you. You can't see anything. It's full of gas, it's full of radiation, and all of this water down here isn't real. Yeah, you can't use like 95% of it because it just doesn't fit. Wow, I actually found a spot to put a pump in. That's crazy work. That is extremely hard to do. Getting all of the water for this is going to be a very unpleasant experience. Now, I'm hoping, and it looks like I did, I built it over kind of this area here, which looks to be a river. So hopefully we can actually get water out of here. But to be fair, also over here, also looks like a river, but I couldn't put a pump on basically anything over here. I had to go all the way over here to get 2 pumps worth of water to run this thing. Yeah, they're over there. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, enough complaining about water now. Let's go ahead and run the aluminum ingots over to the platform. Actually, maybe I just won't run them over yet because it's going to be pretty complicated. I don't know where any of this is going to end up because it's just going to kind of be scattered all over the place. So I think instead, let's head over there and start working on the crystal oscillator factory. Now, I don't think it's going to be too big, although it's probably going to be an excessive quantity of smaller machines. So it's probably going to end up being quite large either way, which, I mean, you know, that kind of checks out. Okay, let's see. First things first, we probably need to get the quartz down here, and that's going to require 18 refineries to run, and also 642 water, which is more than a single pump, so I'll probably split that out into 10 and 10 because it is 18 point something, which means 19, which means we will split it out into 2 things. Let's just make it easier on ourselves. And I don't know where that's going to go. I don't know how this is going to get laid out. So since quartz is coming from over there and we got more space that way, I guess we'll lay them out there and there. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, 20 refineries. Here we come. All right, well, that actually wasn't too bad. That should be all of the quartz crystals going in, and I actually think this is the first time that I have made these. Huh. Interesting. Okay, well, how many are we making? We are making about 900 a minute, so we are going to need to use the fancy conveyors, which I am more than happy to do because these things honestly are super, super convenient to use. There we go. 900 quartz crystals per minute. Achieved. Not too shabby at all. Okay, now obviously most of these are probably already filling up, or not filling up with quartz because quartz is going to take forever to get here. Also, I should probably underclock that thing to 1157 point whatever it was instead of having it be power spiky, but fine, I'll do it. Hold on. You know, I've noticed the more I play this, the less and less I care about a spiky versus not spiky power graph, mostly because half the things that I have in the base are turned off anyways. Maximum consumption 72, but we're only using 30. Like, what's the point of having a flat line here when it's never gonna get there, you know? But whatever, at least for drills I can do the actual calculations. There you go, 1157.14. That is exactly enough quartz. Okay, so now that quartz is done, we can move on to the next thing, which will probably be figuring out how much iron wire I need to substitute in for the copper wire, because I only have 600 copper available. If I wanted to use copper wire, I would need 660, and I only need 336 iron, so we can just like substitute half of that out. I know 198, I think it's 198 needs to go into the radio control unit part for the wiring. Oh no, it's the alclad aluminum casings, that's what it goes into. Yeah, so we need 198 copper ore to go into the alclad casings, and then we can take the overflow of that to turn into wire, and then we use extra iron to make wire. So let me go do some math and figure out exactly how much iron and copper we can use to get the wiring we need. Well, I just got a little carried away, I will be the first to admit, and I went ahead and decided I didn't really want to have to deal with that problem, and instead took over the pure copper node instead of the normal one. I don't really want to have to deal with optimization problems right now. Plus, this place sucks. I'm never coming back here, even if I felt like it. So, we're just going to use the pure copper node and call it a day. Basically, I'm going to send these copper ingots or ore to that side that needs to be purified, and then I'm going to send 480 over here, which will get smelted with normal smelters. I know, inefficient, but I don't really care. And that will get sent into here to make all 720 aluminum casings, which, as you can see, I've already done. Now, the reason I got carried away doing this is because you can probably see right there, I did not realize how many manufacturers this was going to take. These are made at 1 per minute. That means you need 50 manufacturers to run 50 per minute. As you can see right here, there's a lot of them. And as a matter of fact, I ran out of owl-clad casings, and I couldn't build any more. I had like 3 left, and I was like, okay, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go do something useful. So I split off the line right there, sent all the copper over there, and now we're making the aluminum casings. So now we can actually finish this here, and I believe this is a right-facing one. Go ahead and paste all of the settings in here, and now we got to go run in the quartz crystals. Now, as you can see right here, I'm doing some weird kind of like transformer thing going on with some lifts here. You know, I think there is a better way to do this with like floor holes and lifts, because I think you can kind of snap them together, but I'm too lazy to figure that out, so I'm just doing this. Basically, it goes up into a splitter, goes up into a second splitter, and then goes back up again, so it kind of is like linear, so to speak. I don't know, it's kind of weird, it kind of works, just ignore everything that I just said and assume that everything is fine, because it is. This one up here, though, doesn't need that because it is just going in, since this is the final floor. Okay. So there we go. That is all of the quartz crystals into all of the manufacturers. Plus, we can now start moving the owl-clad casings over here, which aren't even for the oscillators. Those are for the radio control units. I didn't even think about that, so I just skipped a step pretty much. But you know what? That's completely fine. We're also going to have to get the computers over here, and it is 45 a minute. I think that is within drone territory, although I might just want to build a giant SkyTrain just because it would be cool, or maybe not, because that would be a pretty big SkyTrain, and man, I do not like building those. I built all those blueprints, and they were super great, but good grief, did they take forever to set up, so I think it might just be drone time. Yeah, you know, we've got a couple of the trains. It looks pretty okay, but, you know, we tried it. It didn't work. We're going to use drones, and it's going to be probably a temporary quote-unquote drone fuel setup because we are switching to rocket fuel at some point, but I am perfectly fine with switching that over next episode, which we'll probably end up doing anyways because that is the cleanup episode. Okay, anyways, so this is all done. Next thing we need to do is build, I think, 30-ish refineries worth of copper ingots, turn half of them into wire, turn half of them into stitch plates, grab a whole bunch of iron, turn those into iron plates, make those into stitch plates with the copper wire, send those over here, send over the wires, and we will have our crystal oscillators. Good grief. Alright, welcome back for a very small progress update on this one. This is technically 29.778 refineries for copper ore, but this actually is 27 plus 3 of them overclocked to equal the nice amount. Plus, now that we laid it out like this, it is a nice 9 by 5 of refineries, not too shabby. This is all of the copper that we should need for the wiring. Next thing to do is get iron. And I literally was thinking after I looked to my right and saw iron in the ground, I was like, hey, well, what purity is this? This is pure. I've already decided I hate this biome and I'm never coming back. So why don't we just use the pure iron vein to get all 650 iron ingots we need and just use smelteries instead? Because then I don't have to build more refineries. That sounds like a great idea. Now each smeltery smelts 30 ingots and we need 625, which is actually 630 if you think about refinery ratios. So we need 21 refineries. That is not too bad. We can definitely fit that over in this little area here. And also I realized, hey, guess what? We're going to need more manufacturers. This is just for crystal oscillators. We also are going to need manufacturers for the radio control units. We need 18 of them. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to fit the rest of the factory kind of on this side and then build a second wall. This time it'll only be going up to this height, but it'll kind of be like encased, you know? Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, let's get 21 refineries in place real quick. There we go. This is 22 of them if you look closely. I just set one of them to 12.5 on each side, so each one's making exactly half of what we need. Let's get these plugged in here. Plug those into the actual power grid. Looking good. And let's go ahead and get our drill down. We need 625 ore, which is so conveniently available to be used in a single Mark V conveyor belt. I realize that I kind of built this a little close to the edge. Oh well, there we go. Iron ore coming in, and that should be smelted into 625 iron ingots, of which we can merge together and send along this way, along with the copper. This side is where we, of course, are going to be doing the rest of the buildings, because I know we're going to be needing more than 100 constructors and probably more than 30 assemblers, so it's going to be quite large. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to set up a kind of a weird little blueprint, which I can't actually make, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to split it out, but basically, I've got a blueprint saved here. Yeah, get wired. It's just 15 in 5x3 format of constructors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave off one side and then make one of these with just 2 of them. And then we're going to have 4 of them be wires and then 2 of them be cables. So then I can basically just place down a whole bunch of those arrays, and that will make all of the cables that we need for this. And then we can, of course, send the other line of wires off to the stitched plates, which I think we need about 30-ish assemblers. So, you know what? Let's time-lapse this part. Kind of trying to mix it all up, you know. Sometimes we do some cuts, sometimes we do some time-lapse, and sometimes we just jump straight to it while I'm in the middle of a sentence. Well, that turned out both worse and better than I thought it would. It also appears that, like, copper is not getting in here, and I don't know why that's the case. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to investigate the copper shortage, but overall, this turned out a little bit better than I thought, but also a little bit worse, mostly because I had to redesign the blueprint about 3 times because I realized the output side and the input side were not lined up, and these ones needed to be backwards to actually line up. So yeah, now you'll also probably notice if you look a little close, this side, these foundations are off by half a tile. I fixed that in these ones, but I never swapped these ones out, but I mean, whatever. We're making all 720 cables, which yes, you can run on one of these. This is 780 capacity. And actually, you know, I think I can run that in there, right? Were the cables for this? Yes, it was. So I absolutely can take all these cables and just run them over into the constructors or manufacturers. Same thing. I will never not get those confused. Anyways, we can run those over, and that'll be part 2 of 3 done. Last and final part is to get a whole bunch more wires, which I think we need about 1,120, which, thank goodness for that, we can run that on a Mark 6 belt. And then we run that into like 30 assemblers worth of stitched iron plates, and then we run those in there, and that will be crystal oscillators done. Honestly, I probably should stop building so dense, but it is kind of nice, you know, it doesn't take up a whole bunch of land, and I don't know, it's just kind of neat. Okay, well, anyways, for this part, I know what we haven't done yet this episode. We haven't made anything just spontaneously appear out of thin air. Well, usually I hate it being completely dark, and I have no idea how that ended up looking, but it looks pretty cool in the dark, you know. Like, you can barely see what's going on, but you can tell things are working. Well, except for the pure crystals because they're completely full. But as you can see right here, I've got, I think it's 17, maybe it's 18 assemblers right here. You can see the 4 over there are overclocked because I did not want to extend the footprint of this area. This will construct all 125 reinforced iron plates, which you can barely see moving along over here, which end up going into crystal oscillator production, which as you can see, there are some green lights over there, which means it is working. Very, very nice. Yes, this thing is very large, it is very dense, and it's also not even done yet because we still need to actually construct the thing that we meant to do this episode, radio control units. Luckily, that's not going to be too difficult. We already did all of the aluminum casings. All we need to do now is ship over the computers because crystal oscillators are working. Plus, we're also going to need to build 18 manufacturers. Yeah. I'm just going to put them along this way, I think, and that's just going to have to do for that. Before we do anything, let's go ahead and take a look at the storage box over here because I do have 3 boxes for crystal oscillators. Again, I don't know how many we're going to need, so I am just kind of putting it into 3 little boxes. I got a dimensional depot as well in case for some random reason I decide that I need them. Plus, we've got the output line, which we will send straight over to the manufacturers to make the radio control units. And I will have a larger box for those because the converters take 50 a pop, so we're definitely going to need to have plenty of those on hand and ready to go. Okay, let me go get this finished up. And you know what? Hold on. Let's go stand up here this time. You know, it is kind of crazy to think. I mean, you can barely see, but we are actually over elevation of the waterfall. That is how high up we have had to go building the manufacturers. Bro, that's ridiculous. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of that. And there we have it, fellas. This is the radio control unit factory with a built-in crystal oscillator factory. Bada bing, bada boom. I think this has got to be the densest one that I've done because, like, just this thing in general, yeah, it's getting pretty crazy. It's starting to look like multi-layered circuit boards, which, I mean, I guess to be fair, kind of all automation games kind of look like building circuit boards because, hey, guess what circuit boards are used for? Automation. Got a whole bunch of things going on, and we should hopefully maybe not actually see some radio control units coming in. Now, the reason I say probably not is because I think there's a problem with the aluminum setup. I'm going to have to go troubleshoot that. Plus, I think this thing is still trying to backfill with the reinforced plates, and it's like maybe halfway there. So probably not getting a whole lot of the crystal oscillators coming in. I mean, there's 2 of them right there, but this thing should start kicking up and spinning up here in a little bit. Also, I am fairly certain the drone thing isn't working because I didn't configure it correctly, and I will also be needing to go and fix that. So I've got a couple of things to fix, but I think I'm going to do that in between episodes just so I don't have to bore you all to death. But that is going to be it for this episode. We got this entire thing done, obviously, and that is a pretty good thing to do for today. Next time, as I said, we're probably going to be cleaning up a couple of tasks that we kind of just have been needing to do. The first of which is to get the drones reconfigured, recreated, and basically just rebuilt in general. We've got a whole bunch of extra compact coal. We've got a whole bunch of fuel available. We can just make a bunch of extra rocket fuel and use those for drones. We've got extra aluminum from there. We've got extra aluminum from the cooling systems factory. So we have plenty of extra aluminum for the pressurized casings. After that, I think we'll probably also set up an extremely large copper refinery, which will then go into the production of nuclear pasta. I don't know how much we're going to need, but I may just make, I don't know, 3 pure copper nodes worth? That might be a little overkill, but, you know, we'll have to see about that in the next episode. And I have a feeling that is probably going to take up most of the time, but if not, we will probably find something else that's pretty simple to do in the meantime. Goodbye.